Well, hello, I am Ned Kelly. Welcome to the Buddha Brunch. Buddha Brunch is a show where I interview all sorts of people, creatives, artists, teachers, authors, about all sorts of subjects, not just Buddhism, of course, but usually the idea is to talk about creativity, wisdom, divine spirit in all of us, in whatever shape or form it is. Today we are going to talk about water, sacred water, with a couple of wonderful, amazing individuals. This is a really special episode. I'm very excited to get into this and very excited to introduce these guests today. So first I'm going to start with Loran Van Benthusen, whom I've known for at least a few years now. And Loran is a contractor, painter. He's a master of all trades here in the Kansas City area. And just a week or so ago, I was really touched by Loran's presentation of pictures, of words, of sounds, and stories from the Standing Rock protest, protection activities going on out there. He's been involved in that. He's going to tell us about all of that. And Kelly Daniels, whom I've just met, her involvement. So both of them of this really important activity that's going on right now. Kelly is a photographer doing events, weddings on her own property. Check out thekellygallery.com. Anything I left out you want to mention?
No, that sounds good.
For now, just as far as the basic intro. And we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about the events, the water protectors, Dapple, Standing Rock. Let's start and just get a little bit of a background from these two wonderful souls here. How did you first find out about Standing Rock?
I went to a show that John Two Hawks, who is a Indigenous American that plays flute, and he did a show up at the Heart of the Dove Center, and I heard him talk about it. And about the same time, I think I met Jesse that day. Jesse Lopez,
yeah.
Who's a doctor, friend of ours,
who also
is an activist up there. And that was the first time I had heard of it, really. And then
that same week, I had a friend. I also have a forest school at my property where we get kids outside and connected to nature. It's kind of my biggest passion. And one of the moms at the camp told me that she was going up to this place in North Dakota called Standing Rock, and she was going to take some canoes up because they were going to have a rally down the river. And I have a couple of kayaks, and I thought, well, that sounds kind of like fun. So she wanted me to go like that, 4 o'clock in the morning the next day, and I just didn't have time to get everything together. But I talked him into like going that night. And we drove 12 hours in thunderstorms with kayaks going sideways off the top of our car.
It was an adventure.
And drove 12 hours straight all night long. At 11 o'clock in the morning, we got on the river immediately because they were getting on the river already.
I remember hearing about, approximately when was that?
September?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, early September, I think.
Early September, so not that long ago.
Yeah, so we drove 12 hours to the rain, and then we got there, and then we
pretty intense.
paddled for about 8 hours
Paddled
to the job site
hard.
on the Cannonball River. The Cannonball River meets the Missouri River up there, and where it's actually Lake Oahe, and it looks like an ocean.
Yeah.
And so we paddled out to where the job site is actually going to cross under.
Oh.
And
put up, they had big signs, Mini Wachoni, water is life, strapped across all these canoes, and they were having me photograph in the middle of the lake, which is like waves.
white capping.
It was
like an ocean.
It's the river. I thought it was just the river, but then I find out later it was actually in the 60s they dammed up the Missouri River and created this lake that actually took out all of the villages of Standing Rock. So that was one of the traumas that happened to them early on.
So that was going way back.
Yeah, that was in the 60s that happened. And so the lake is there now. So the pipeline is going to go under a very long way across the lake. And we didn't really realize what we were getting into.
Fourth biggest reservoir in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, and it took us over an hour just to kayak across it.
So at that point, the protests, the activities had already been going on for a while. Why don't we?
Early April, I think.
Yeah.
And can you kind of take us back in history to how all this started?
So the gal that told me about it, she had gone up there. She was there at the very beginning, pretty much. And there's a woman named LaDonna Brave Bull Allard, and she is a grandmother on at Standing Rock member, and she has land on the Cannonball River, and she has family buried, a son buried along the river, and heard about this pipeline, and she was concerned about it, and concerned about it going through all the burials, and so and the water, the drinking water. So she put out, she had a circle of women that they were doing some prayers. She decided to put it out on Facebook and put a call out for people to come and like stand with her. And she was hoping for about 40 people. And it's grown to like, sometimes there's 5,000 to 10,000 people there now. And it's like a movement all over the world. And she's been to the UN and talking, and this
Amazing.
just started in April.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems longer in my mind, but it's been a number of months. So, and it started off as a call for prayer amongst her own friends and community, and has grown
to the 10th largest city in North Dakota.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I kind of feel like it was one of the reasons I feel like I was hearing a call for prayer. Like, because I was very busy, and it was a really traumatic decision for me to even go, because it was a long drive, and I didn't know if I could really handle it, and would I really make a difference when I got there. And but part of me, my grandmother was Native American, so part of me was like, now I always talk about we need to take care of nature, and we should support these people that are really have been through a lot of trauma, and now is my chance to do it.
Wow.
And so I decided I kind of felt like I had to.
And how many times have you each been there?
We're going up
It's going to be the 4th.
our 4th time this Saturday.
This coming Saturday, so in about 1 week from now.
September, October.
Yeah. So you've done 3 trips already. How long would you be there for each?
About a week usually.
Wow. So people are kind of coming and going. Describe,
Right.
if you would, what it's like there.
Wow.
They're all living communally. I mean, there's I think over 400 nations there now
all different.
of tribes that haven't lived together or even gotten along in literally centuries. I mean, they are all living together, and they're all taking care of each other, and they're all living on prayers and donations, and they have truckloads of wood delivered every day, and they have.
It's really exciting to be there,
Yeah, it's-
because a lot of people hear about like the front lines and the human rights violations and the civil rights violations,
And there is that.
there's
and
a
we-
lot
and I
of,
wanna hear
lot
about
of
that.
bad things happening.
Yeah.
But when we go up, we've only had one experience that was close. Well, actually, we got to be on the front lines, but we weren't planning on it. But
We were there. We were definitely there.
yeah, it's like when you have people crying and calling and saying, you got to get down there, they're shooting people, you just kind of go, But most of the time we are with the families, with the grandparents and the children playing, and
It's
they have a
very
little
prayerful.
school going, and
It's always prayers.
it was really neat to be like outside the teepee and listening to their little schools, and they were talking about what do you do with all the different parts of the buffalo, and how do you actually use the buffalo, and they were actually really teaching them things, that were really about living simply and living sustainably the way they used to live. And so you're in camp with all these teepees and all these tents and horses walking through the camp, and then you hear drums in the background, and you hear, then people will come in, like a new tribe will come in, and all the war cries start hooting and hollering and all these, and it's like an exciting event welcoming new
Wow.
people into the camp. And
They always have sacred fires burning,
Uh-huh.
several sacred fires that are continuously taken care of, and there's mountain sage that grows everywhere, so they have sage pots that go around all the time, and
they're
smudge
constantly
all,
saging. And they have a microphone. Like, there's different camps. So the main big camp that we would stay at is called Ocheti Sakawin, I think is how you pronounce it. And it was actually considered the overflow camp at first, because the Sacred Stone camp is where LaDonna Brave Bull Allard started the camp. So there's Rosebud, which is on the one side of the river, Occhetti, which is on the big side. This is the side where all the musicians come in. You know, when we were there, Joan Baez and Peter, Paul, and Mary, Peter of Peter, Paul, and Mary. All kinds of people are flowing through there. And it's really a neat atmosphere, and everybody's really actually happy, because you can imagine these people, the kitchens are incredible. Like, the food is really good. It's really healthy, actually. And
I heard you're eating meat while you're there.
Upon occasion, I will.
yeah, somebody will bring in a buffalo every once in a while, or elk, and
I'm a gracious eater. I'm a gracious
Yeah.
eater.
I'm a vegetarian
I'm
also.
plant-based, but yeah, you can eat that way there.
Oh, definitely.
You definitely can.
But if I was there, that would probably be, if you're
Right.
going to eat meat, that's the
Yeah.
time to do it. And that,
yeah, because it's honored,
everyone's
and
bringing it
yeah,
for that. Yeah.
right. And so you have this atmosphere where they are actually eating better there than what they do on the reservations. And they're living communally, which is the way they used to live. So they're actually feeling, supported.
Right.
They have all these people coming in and supporting them, and they welcome them, and they're really working well together, like, making it happen.
And they're getting their youth back.
Yeah,
To a
you mentioned
certain
that.
extent,
So they have purpose. They have
Exactly.
they have
And,
meaning.
as much as we all like to think that this is kind of a tragedy and, and going on at times, there it is, from the aspect that I look at it, it's a blessing in many, many ways. And it causes us to look at everything differently, and they are learning some forgiveness up there, and they are learning to project peace, even to the oil company, even to the police force.
Wow.
And
Hey, let us at least mention what is the protest, and I know they're not calling themselves protesters, but protectors, and what it's all about.
They take it very seriously because they have a prophecy in the Lakota culture that is about if someday the black snake stretches across North Dakota, that it will be the end of their people. So it's
the end of us.
It's a very spiritual prophecy that they take very seriously.
But they also have prophecies that say, after 7 generations of darkness, that their light-skinned brothers and sisters will come to their aid, and so that's kind of a beautiful thing, also.
And so you are, and that is what's happening.
It is what's
all
happening.
these people coming.
Everybody's
together.
there. I mean, there's every ethnicity. There's every age there. There's grandmas, grandpas.
So
children,
they also recognize,
everybody.
the beauty of it, that this is the time when we're going to overcome, and we're going to overcome the darkness, and we're going to all come together, and we're going to,
And it's time to look for new energy sources.
and then we have to.
We have to, and really the shale and the fracking and all that has only come about in the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And now we're just pumping it across our land. We used to get it from everywhere else, and we used to ship it by rail car, which in my opinion is a much safer way to do it. But now we do it with these pipelines that aren't monitored very well, and the only sure thing about a pipeline is it's going to break.
And it'll get old.
It is going to.
It may not break, this year, but for our children and our children's children, it's going to break
At some point,
for somebody.
it definitely will. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Let's talk a little bit about the action on the ground, the dangers, the challenges, if you will, what people have been facing, what you personally have faced, and the stories you've heard other people facing.
Well, it began, really, there were 5 mothers that couldn't take it anymore and stood in front of the bulldozers. Literally stood in front of the bulldozers. And that was like one of the very first, I think, incursions. And that was just north of where the camp is now. And that's where a lot of the action originally took place. But now they have the bridge blocked, and they have vehicles in the way, and razor wire and blockades and stuff. And you can't even get close to where the actual pipeline is. The pipeline runs underneath the series of high tension power lines that are out there. That also, the very first time we went there, that's really the only thing that really mars the view out there. It's like a beautiful view everywhere except for these high tension power lines, and that just happens to be where they're also running the pipeline, because they thought that they could sneak it in with the easement that already was there. Incidentally, this was supposed to go north of Bismarck, and the Bismarckians, if you want to say it that way, they threw such a fit about the pipeline going north of their city that they decided to move it south to the reservation.
Where they, it was a small, poor reservation, so they figured they wouldn't have a lot of, voice.
Right.
And they found
right.
out that wasn't true.
Right.
But they talk about it's really a movement about women. So you'll hear a lot like one of the first groups that actually, got in front of the bulldozers were women. And they just couldn't, we actually got to hear them talk, and they couldn't stand it any longer, and they just took off running in front of them because they couldn't get them to stop. And they were going through, that was probably about the first one. The second one, they actually had a independent archaeologists come through and mark the sacred sites and mark the burial grounds. Mm-hmm. They took these sites to the court, and at the court, the pipeline company is there as well. And so they were actually showing where these sites are. And the next morning was a holiday. The next morning, they took their bulldozers from 20 miles away, where they were actually working on the pipeline. 20 miles away, they brought it over to the sacred sites, and on a holiday weekend, started bulldozing the sacred sites. So that's when the people really. This is when really started getting dangerous.
They were looking to antagonize them, and they had a police force in place that day with dogs, and that's when the first dog thing happened.
Outside even their normal plan for what they needed.
It wasn't even in the path of the pipeline. And the deal is with DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline, they tend to think, here's a sacred site, and we can just go in between it, But to the indigenous, they believe that it's all sacred out there. Mm-hmm. Everything is sacred.
We've seen, some of the photos and videos of the macing, pepper spray. If you can talk on that.
Trying to get to a place of organized civil disobedience there. And they are beginning to do that without any retaliation. Because everybody's seen the videos, and there is some antagonization that goes on there that it's hard not to retaliate, especially from a people that have been put down for so many centuries, And it is hard for them to learn, forgiveness to a certain extent. But now they are beginning to do that and being able to actually stand there and just take it.
So I think what, the idea of the DAPL with the security guards and the dogs and getting the police and all the militarized action is a psychological thing that they know that they're doing to these people. Right. Because these are people that have been, this in the same location that was called the White Stone Massacre, which was bigger than the what was the other one, that everybody knows about, Wounded Knee. And 400 people were surrounded there and killed, women, children, elders, in the same area. And so these people they suffer in their genes, post-traumatic stress disorder. So when you put these military people in front of them, even though they're praying and they're sitting there and they're, just wanting to be there to show that they don't agree with this, you start putting this military at them, and they get scared and they start yelling back. And they start yelling things that they didn't plan on yelling, but they're so scared with all this military force, and it's a psychological thing. They know that these people are going to
and it's excessive.
React like that.
You've seen the pictures. You've seen. It's excessive.
I talked to a gal that's she's a medic, and she's on the front line. Awesome woman, and she said she didn't know that she would react like that. She never thought she would yell, but she was actually yelling at one of the officers in particular and saying to him, "What are you guys doing? I thought you were here to protect us. Like, I normally would run to you, and now it's so confusing because you're scaring me so much that I can't run to you. I'm supposed to run away from you, and I'm a medic, and you someday may be hurt and looking up at me and looking to me for help, and here I am wanting to run to you and say, please help me, but at the same time you're attacking me." And she's yelling at him, and one of the other police officers next to him started to hurt her. And this guy protected her, and he said, "Dee Dee, you stick next to me.
Wow.
I'll keep you safe."
She reached, she connected.
Right, and there's a lot of fear that the police feel.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of fear on both sides.
And you're starting to see that. I mean, you're starting to see that, people are turning in the badges, and people, in even some of the video, the recent ones, you see police like fall out fainting. I mean, they just, and we were so close to them last time that you could see through their visors and you could see their faces, and 4 of them would just be horrified of the actions that are going on against these completely unarmed people that are standing in freezing water.
And for those who haven't seen it, we're talking about rubber bullets to the face.
Right, rubber bullets, mace, and pepper spray, and compression grenades.
One of the women that I photographed, one of the photos that's gone viral on the internet is one with a Native American woman that has like mace plastered on her face, and she just looked at me, and she just has all of it. They'll say, well, they're on private property. Well, this was not on private property. The one when we were there, it was on the edge of the camp. It was on Corps of Engineers land, and the police had actually gone out of their jurisdiction and come over where they shouldn't have been.
Well, it was a sacred hill too. They were wanting to take the elders over to the sacred hill.
Yeah, the Native Americans wanted to go up on the hill and pray for it was burial grounds, but the police didn't know that was beyond their jurisdiction, and they came over and they brought their big vehicles, and the people are standing in the water. No, they're not armed. They're standing there like this, and they're like, we want to go over there and pray. And the police are there, and they're kind of actually grinning with their big spray things, and they're just like
1 out of every 6 of them. Most of them, in my opinion, were pretty horrified. I mean, they just couldn't even believe that it was going on. I think that it is getting to them. And I think that by them being completely civil about the way that they're reacting to it all, because they would take somebody that couldn't actually stand to be there anymore, put them in the canoe, and drag them back across.
Wow.
And, the deal is also, in that day, that was state police on federal land. That, in and of itself, is illegal.
Right. Well, let us get political, if you don't mind. I'm a libertarian. I don't know if you knew that. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a total voluntarist. I believe in total nonviolence, but I think libertarianism is the best way to approach that, personally. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people have the conception that it's government versus the corporations.
Right.
That the government is there to protect us from these corporations.
Right.
When, in my opinion, the corporations only have their power through government.
It's true.
Well, good. I'm glad we got that settled.
It is true, in my opinion.
But if you have, I don't know if you have more thoughts on that.
Well, I think one of the big issues up there is the fact that these police forces are, all they're doing is protecting a private corporation's pipeline.
Right.
Construction. And the pipeline, at the moment, they're drilling illegally. So, the thought is, you guys need to turn around, because you guys are
behind you.
You guys are looking at the wrong people as criminals.
Right. And that wouldn't, like the fracking you talked about, mm-hmm. wouldn't even be profitable if not for subsidies and regulations and all these handouts from from government. I'm going to say it again. If that stuff wasn't in place, they wouldn't make a profit from it. They just wouldn't even do it. We would seek.
Yeah, it's like the new boom. The Bakkens are like the new boom. It's like gold rush times. They're just, and it's Wild West out there. I mean, it's really in such a remote place that they can get away with whatever.
Right.
And the government of North Dakota is so entrenched in that that they're pulling, but they are pulling in police from 6 different states.
Yeah. They make it hard for citizens, individual people to sue if their water in their land is polluted because of the fracking.
Right.
There's just
there's so many layers too, so many different contractors, and so nobody's held responsible for any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Plus, the oil companies actually profit when they have cleanups, because
Wow.
the government pays them
Wow.
to clean up.
So instead of
So-
fining them, or
right.
in these
Right.
cases when they do end up getting fined for something, it's just a
It's a slap on the wrist.
Well, they just
yeah.
get paid for the cleanup crews.
Wow.
So like Energy Transfer, who is, they're the ones that own the Dakota Access Pipeline. They are known for profiting off of disasters. So, and the way they profit off disasters is that they get a lot of money to clean them up. So there's no real reason why
Yeah.
they care about that. They actually don't mind them breaking.
incentive is there. So this current situation at Standing Rock, it's a lot bigger. There's a lot more to it than just what's happening there and
Right.
now. What are your thoughts on that?
I've got a perfect thought on that. There's 400 different nations up there now, and they are all getting to voice what's going on their reservations, because there are people there that haven't had water in 10 years. I mean, from the uranium mines, the plutonium mines, the silver mines, the gold mines. They gave them all this land way back when, and then they decide that they find something that is of value
Wow.
on it, and then they come in, they take what they want. They don't ecologically deal with like the open mine. They let it fill up with water, and then it contaminates everybody's water in that area. So I mean, literally, we've heard stories from, I don't even know how many people, about not having, they haven't had clean water in years, but they're here because they know that they can make a difference here.
Right.
And
And the big issue is water. Like even
It is.
in
Water's life.
in northern Arizona, the Black Mesa Reservation, the coal company actually pumped all their coal out. The way they removed the coal is through the water. So they used the water, the aquifer under the reservation, to pump all this coal out. The aquifer's dry now. So they literally have to go an hour to get water. They don't have any water left. So everybody has issues with water. Water is a resource that we all take for granted, that we all just think comes out of the faucet and will always be there.
Right.
But in so many places, people are not aware of this, that people don't have water. Their water is contaminated because of fossil fuel industries, and a lot, and it's happening everywhere.
Right.
So Standing Rock is like the first example of something that, for the first time, has really come out in the open, where even though the mass media is not covering it, it's coming out, from social media, it's actually coming out in the
and
open.
coming out from just people talking about it.
Yeah.
It's the
People
way
in
to do
Europe
it.
actually know more about it than the people in the United States. We know families that actually found out about it from their families in Europe. They didn't even hear about it here. But it is coming out now, and it's gaining support, a lot of support. So it's the support to, the fact that we need to protect the water.
Wow.
We need to protect the water. And actually, the Bakken oil fields where this fracking is going on, they're going dry. So these pipeline companies are desperate right now.
Right.
This is their last chance to make money on fossil fuels. So they're putting pipelines in everywhere.
Right.
And they're finding out they really don't even need all those pipelines. They're just profiting as much as they can and making as much money as they can while they can, because they know that the fossil fuel industry is on its last leg.
So big wake up call for this particular place and for the whole movement in general. Hey, we're going to start to wind this interview up here. Before we do, any closing thoughts? Anything else?
Yeah, it's an example up there also of sustainability, because they are implementing wind, they are implementing solar, they have rocket stoves, they have
Domes that they're building.
45-foot
It's
dome
incredible.
up there that has a solar array.
Right.
It's awesome.
So that's what I feel like it is, an example of how we're supposed to live.
Wonderful.
And it can spread, and people can use that as an example. So that's the gift that the pipeline has given us, is this place where people are seeing how wonderful it is to live in community, how we can take care of one another, how we can live in a place that has no electricity.
Wow.
And we don't need the fossil fuels. We actually can do this without it. How are we going to do this? They're showing them how to do it.
How can people help?
The safest way is to go directly to Standing Rock Reservation, go to their website, and donate money, because it always changes on what they need.
Right.
You know, they need things for the winter. They need things to keep warm. They need solar.
Medical supplies.
Right.
and
Jane,
food.
Jane Fonda is bringing in a bunch of yurts and food and everything. So there's a lot of people bringing a lot of structures that they need to survive the winter up there.
Wonderful. So yeah, we'll include those links
Right.
as well.
And I have, well, I was going to say, mainly what everybody needs is prayers. That's what we're really, really looking for, is for everybody to turn their attention there and to send their prayers.
Amen.
And we spend the first 9 months of our lives in water, inside of our mothers, you know, and this is all about the water. It's all about the life. You know, there is no life without the water. And so that's the main thing with this. Then the last thing I want to say is that this is not an indigenous thing. This is an everyone thing. Because, you know, I mean, in the eyes of the Great Mother, we are all indigenous. And we have to turn our thoughts and our prayers to
Taking
the
care
protectors
of each other.
and take care of each other.
Amen. Thank you so much, Loran Van Benthusen, Kelly Daniels, thekellygallery.com. If you have enjoyed this program, if you've gotten anything out of it, please like Buddha Brunch on Facebook, share this video, please, and you can support the works that I do, the interviews and projects I do at patreon.com/Ned Kelly. Wow, you guys, this has meant so much to me. I really want to thank you for your time, for your prayers, and the work that you're doing. Peace, everybody. Peace.